administering the servers. We're not setting up new users. So we're pulling people away from their jobs to ensure that our initiatives are being done. So we need to make sure that we're sensitive to their time. So prioritize. Available resources. You know, what is it that we have access to? You know, we may not have the superstar on our team, okay? We may just have a bunch of Pop Warners, okay? It's a great opportunity because we can help mentor them and bring them up. But, you know, what resources do we have available to us? Again, your controls need to be well defined. And I would highly, 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 highly recommend that everything that you do, when at all possible, can tie back to your standards, okay? I don't think you're necessarily going to get 100% of that, but just bake into your program standards, and everything should be able to meet that. Because the thing is, standards, they're defensible, right? Somebody said, well, I don't think that that's right. Well, here's the standard. If you don't agree with that, let's go talk to the people who wrote the standards and we'll try and get it changed, okay? But at least you have some foundation that you can stand on. Okay, and establish metrics. The value of metrics is beyond being able to say, gee, where should I be able to put you know, the admin resources for fixing vulnerabilities. The value of metrics is you can actually take those metrics to your executive level and be able to say, we have been tracking this, we have been evaluating this, this is where we stand. And if your tools and your metrics, again, are rooted in industry standards, you're going to have a much better conversation with your executive level, okay? So, visibility, they help give us visibility into where things really are, identify those risks. If you have compliance needs and you're having to report, whether it's to a government agency or PCI for that matter, you're having to do these reports, these metrics will help you in those compliance. And again, your metrics need to be clearly defined. Okay, we talked about offense. Let's talk a little bit about defense. Okay, our tactics, what we're going to do play by play is going to help us achieve our end vision, our end goal. What do we want the end to look like? Okay? So in this particular structure in defense, if you can look, we have this show here. No, yeah, there it is. These three here, that's our defensive line. There's only three of them. So then you've got behind them, you've got your linebackers, you have your cornerbacks on the end. This particular defensive formation, this defensive play, what do you think we're trying to defend against? Pass. A pass play, okay? Defensive line, they're not going to be running all over the place. They're not big, they're too big, they're not fast enough, okay? Whereas this particular structure, look at that defensive line. What are we trying to defend against? Runners, yeah, a running play, okay? We still do have a couple of linebackers back there. We have that free safety. We do still have our cornerbacks out on the end, so just in case we didn't read the play right, we do have some element of defense, right? What do we call this in cybersecurity? Defense in depth, right? Okay? I don't know. No, I'm kidding. Pop Warner, gotta love them, right? Just all those little kids running around. This is called a 4-3, where you have four people on the defensive line. You've got three of your linebackers right behind them. This is widely considered to be the best balance in defense. That, you know, if you have a good team, okay. A lot of times, you know, in like high school and sometimes in college, depending on the college, you don't see this very often because that defensive line just doesn't have the size and the strength and the speed to be able to do much. But when you get into professional football, then you see this structure a little bit more. But having 4 in the defensive line, if you've got a good defensive line, you can have other players to be able to protect. So you have a good protection for run, you have a good protection for passing. You don't have the best for either one of those, but you've got a really good broad defense, okay? So when we take a look at tactics in cybersecurity, just in football, you have to have a multitude of plays. You cannot just run the same play again and again and again. The other side of the team is going to notice that, and they're going to change the way they do things, okay? How many would agree that we've come a long way in boundary protections? We do a pretty good job in boundaries, and the firewall technology is there to really kind of help protect. Of course, you got to configure the firewall properly, of course, but that's kind of a known thing now, and so we don't have, while it still happens, the attackers are still looking for holes in that boundary device. That's not the biggest focus on their attack vector, right? Where is the biggest focus now? What do you think? Phishing. Phishing represents more than 90% of the attacks, or is at least evolved at some point, okay? They just went around the firewall. Okay? And so if you're constantly putting all of your emphasis on making sure that firewall's in place, and then you have, an executive who gets phished or whaled, all that effort is for naught. Okay? So you have to have a good portfolio of plays. You need to be able to pivot in the middle of a play. Okay? So, of course, everybody knows about ransomware, but there's been a slight shift in the way attackers are approaching ransomware. And the big approach for a long time was phishing, because it is such a successful means to be able to get inside of an organization. But that is quickly waning. People are aware, and they're being a lot more cautious about what they're clicking on. We haven't won that battle yet, but we're getting there. And so, but this kind of shotgun, throw the spaghetti against the wall and see what sticks, is great for the $300 ransom, etc. But the slight shift in ransomware is that you have your advanced persistent threat. Your attacker gets inside. Maybe they got inside through a phish, but that's not what engaged the ransom. That they get in and they start moving within your environment, and they start collecting information about how things are set up, and they try and get various credentials if they're able to. And they could be in your environment for a month or 6 months or a year getting intelligence, and then they hit you with a ransom. Now they know who you are, they know what kind of data you have, and they know how valuable it is. And so instead of trying to shotgun approach, ransom things off, give us $1,000 in Bitcoin and we'll give you the key, they now know who you are. Maybe the value is $1 million in Bitcoin. Okay, so you have to be able to learn how to pivot. You know that the attack is there, but it's a running play. Is he going to run to the left or run to the right? I don't know. We got to wait till it comes, and you have to be able to pivot. Okay? And we have to be able to pick our plays based on the risk. Okay? You've got to do those security assessments, you got to do those risk assessments, and then you have to be able to pick how are we going to accomplish this goal based on where we are in our risk tolerance, our risk appetite, and just the risk landscape that's out there. And so it's really important when you make all of these decisions, you make the decision based on risk. Not just cybersecurity risk, but risk to the organization. Okay, so we have our life cycle. And cybersecurity risk is only just a portion of the overall corporate risk or organization or agency risk. Okay? You need to do that initial assessment. You know, you do the security assessment feeds your risk assessment. Do that risk assessment. When you have a good idea of where you are, then you can inform the corporate risk assessment. You can see there at the bottom the corporate risk acceptance. Okay? That's your executives. They're going to have to make some level of determination as to where are we going to put resources, because, as we know, nobody has everything. And so sometimes you're going to win, sometimes you're not going to win the resource battle. Okay? But depending on what that is, what the outcome is, you have to develop some kind of strategy based on your conditions and upon your player's skill set and upon what the threat landscape looks like and upon what kind of vulnerabilities and everything that you have to develop some kind of strategy. And then you implement that strategy. You put your tactics to work. Hopefully you can have a really good plan, you've got a really good team, and you can get really good plays in order to be successful. And sometimes, unfortunately, we get put in the back seat. Okay? But let's just make the best of what we've been given, okay? So we may be in the back seat, but we can at least have our coloring book with us, right? Okay? All right. So every time I come here, I always talk about the shoestring budget part, okay? Because everybody is constrained with money, okay? So this is great. Yay, strategy, yay, tactics. What am I going to do? How am I going to do this? Okay. I have been a big supporter with NIST. Okay. The reason why I support NIST so much is because it is at no additional cost. I don't say free because maybe nobody else in here, but every April, Uncle Sam comes and talks to me to pay for things like this, okay? But it's at no additional cost. You can go to the NIST website, and everything is there, and you can download everything. You've got free, no additional cost access, okay? You got to pay for your internet, right? Okay? I would suggest, as a framework, again, because there's no additional cost to it, is the NIST cybersecurity framework. It was implemented a few years ago. It just went through an iteration, and so it's on version 1.1 now. But if you go to, I think I've put it here, yeah, if you go to that website, that lands you on the main page of the NIST cybersecurity framework, and everything that they have to be able to support the identify, protect, detect, respond, and recover, that framework, everything is there, okay? One of the reasons why, well, a lot of the reasons, but why NIST? Why do I evangelize NIST? Again, no additional charge, but it is backed by a library, a very extensive library of how-tos, okay? It's great to know what you need to do, but if you don't really know how you need to do it, it becomes cumbersome, okay? And if you remember a few slides back, what did I say? Based on standards, okay? I like standards because you have thousands of the best minds that have come together to say this is the best that we can put out there. My mom kept telling me growing up that I don't know everything. And while I fought her as a child, I've come to realize how wise she is. I don't. But with thousands of the best minds together, maybe we can come up with something better, right? And so we have the standards. And of course, everybody here is welcome. And NIST is always looking for feedback and as they go through their iterations of their documents, and be a part of the community, okay? Support it. If, I put this up here, if you work with the government, okay, this is their language. If you work with the federal government, you have to speak to this. Most state agencies, speak NIST. And so rather than trying to be multilingual in cybersecurity, if you work with the government, maybe you just want to pick NIST because you only have one language to speak. Okay? One of the things, too, that NIST does is it correlates security with privacy. Security and privacy are two very distinct disciplines. People conflate them quite frequently. We have at USBE a pretty spectacular privacy team, and very passionate about what they do. And they deal with the who gets to see what information under what conditions based on the laws that govern what we do. My job is, okay, great. Now that we've had that defined, how do we protect it and make sure that those things are in place? That's pretty simplified of what that is. But NIST, even in, so if we talk NIST 853, which is about the security controls, we're currently on Rev 4. Rev 5 is in final draft. They kind of missed their deadline, so they haven't redefined their deadline. But Rev 5 is coming out pretty soon. But even in Rev 4, they addressed privacy specifically. And Appendix J of 853 Rev 4 are all the privacy controls. And even in Rev 4, they talk about how security and privacy play. Rev 5, it's a lot better, and they have a better understanding of which are security controls, which are privacy controls, but really a lot of them, really need to have a good collaboration between the two, okay? And so NIST is really taking this concept of privacy and developing resources behind it. It's about time. I mean, we've only had privacy laws for how long? Since 1776. The other thing about NIST is, it was written to be able to take you all the way through, your super secure Department of Defense type organizations and environments. But especially with the NIST cybersecurity framework, they've been able to strip out a lot of the noise for those super secure environments and be able to really focus it. I know that there's a law that has asked NIST, so Congress has asked NIST to go into the cybersecurity framework and actually kind of make it more simple for your Main Street type mom and pop shops to be able to consume, for their cybersecurity initiatives. So there really is a good effort for that. We're brand new, really small, not a lot of resources, all the way up to we're working with the Department of Defense. Okay. This risk management project, so these are all of the documents that NIST has identified in their risk management project, which is FISMA. Well, FISMA is the act. That's the law that created this whole thing with this risk management. But these are all of the documents that they've created in order to help generate a risk-based approach to cybersecurity. That's a lot. People look at me really weird. I love NIST documents. I read these like I read anything else. I am as happy reading a good NIST technical document as somebody would be reading science fiction. I kid you not. I love these things. If you're like me, let's get together. We can have a book club. And if you're not, that's okay. We forgive you. But if you take a look at these, this will step you through how to develop a risk-based approach to cybersecurity. The importance of this, let's go back to our executives. Executives speak risk-ease, right? Most of the time, they think money, 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 okay? But ultimately, they speak risk-ease. If you can learn how to speak that language, you're going to have a better time, okay? These are the documents to help you do that. This is a Forbes. This was, again, in in August that this came out. The percentage of surveyed CISOs who believe talent constraints, meaning they don't have enough people to run their program, that's the talent constraint, have an extremely high impact on their security organizations. We don't have enough people. We need more people on the team. 3 times higher. Those that have a strategy constraint, meaning they do not have a strategy that is explicitly defined to a specific vision or goal. They don't have a strategy, and so therefore they are 3 times more likely to say, we don't have enough people on the team. Okay? So it's really, really important that you have that strategy, because then you know how to work the resources that you do have. And so, with all this, go forth and conquer, okay? Now, Richard Moe is an attorney out of Minnesota. He was actually the chief of staff for Vice President Mondale, who was vice president when Jimmy Carter was president, okay? But he also went on, and I've got his little notes here. He was also the president of the National Trust for Historic Preservation. So it was really important for him, this idea of communities, okay, and development and preservation of communities. Okay, so communities can be shaped by choice or by chance. Okay, I just want to say maybe we can shift that a little bit. Security, cybersecurity can be shaped by choice, or it can be shaped by chance. We can keep on accepting the same kind of security that we get, or we can start creating the kind of security that we want. I guess I should have put a line through his name and put my name in there, right? So the question though is, what are you going to do? Okay, you have to be able to speak with the executives. You have to be able to, communicate with them on their level. Okay, it's not an easy task, I know. Remember how I was talking with the owner of the law firm? That guy. I learned a lot from him, and I'm so grateful for the opportunity. But I affectionately say that he was so miserly that he made Scrooge look like he spent like a drunken sailor. Okay? And so to get him to open up to any initiative that I had was a battle. And so you have to learn how to speak with the executives that you have, and you have to be able to help them to see what that vision is. And the best way that you can do that is to be able to walk in on an annual basis, semi-annual, whatever the time frame is, with a report to say, here's the framework we're following. Here are the standards that help us put this together. Here are the metrics that we've collected. We have done our assessment. This is the risk that we have. What are we going to do about this? This is what I would like it to look like. Can we do this together? Okay? So you have to be able to have that conversation and develop a good strategy, something that they are going to be able to consume. Thanks. Appreciate it. I have 10 minutes. You're absolutely welcome to ask questions. If people want to leave, it's the end of the day, that's fine. Thank you for sticking around. You can come up here, we can talk more. You can leave me alone to my own devices. Yes, sir. Back up one slide, yes. All right, well, thank you so much. Have a great night sleeping, because tomorrow is going to be a super exciting day at SAINTCON. Have a great night.